Once upon a time, there lived in Romania a noble prince by the name of Vlad Tepesa. We suppose that he was a good enough ruler by the standards of those days. He tried to make the roads safe for travellers, and in a war against the Turks, he's credited with saving Christian Europe from a Muslim invasion. But he had a mean streak, killing lots and lots of people in lots and lots of very imaginative ways. He was dubbed Vlad the Impaler, and as the centuries rolled on, his reputation somehow got worse and worse rather than better. Until today, we know him as Dracula. That's right, Dracula, because the story of Vlad the Impaler is supposed to have inspired Bram Stoker to create the original Dracula legend, a story that's now been told with varying success in 200 different movies. In the last year, in fact, there's been a veritable Dracula revival. Excuse the expression. The long, sharp teeth, the gleaming red eyes may make good box office, but they don't necessarily make good history, as we found out when we ventured recently to the remote castle in Transylvania where it all began. Macabre and menacing, a lonely graveyard high in the Carpathian Mountains of Eastern Europe. It's the unnatural home of Dracula. And since the 1920s, Hollywood has made Dracula a bloodthirsty feast. More than 200 films on the terror of Transylvania. Transylvania means literally the land beyond the forest, isolated, cut off, a region that is by tradition and folklore infested with vampires, werewolves and grisly superstition. It's the perfect setting for images that haunt the imagination and shiver the spine. This is Bran Castle, a 14th century castle deep in the heart of Transylvania, the land and the home of Count Dracula. Dracula, the Nosferatu, the undead, condemned to spend the day in his coffin below and the night on the eternal search for blood. By daylight, Dracula's castle is intriguing, a more likely setting perhaps for Romeo and Juliet, but still honeycombed with passages and vaults and secret crypts. By night, one imagines it could easily become Count Dracula's demonic domain, a blood-sucking antichrist who, according to legend, can only be warded off by a whiff of garlic and stopped by the Christian crucifix.
I did not hear you come in, Count.
I am often told I have a light footstep.
I was looking in the mirror. It reflects the whole room, and yet I cannot see.
Forgive me, Doctor. I dislike mirrors. How is the fair patient?
Her diagnosis presents difficulties. My prescription is a most unusual one.
In the past 500 years, Professor, those who have crossed my path have all died, and some not pleasantly. Sacrilege! Sacrilege!
Of course, this wasn't the real Dracula. His name was Vlad Tepesa. He was a 15th century prince in nearby Wallachia. He wasn't a vampire, but he was heavily into law and order of a bloody kind. It's been conservatively estimated that he impaled about 20,000 people. Mind you, that was all in the interests of law and order. And he burnt about another 150, 200 beggars and odd people around the place, a sort of mopping up operation. But his main and first problem was to deal with the boyars, the landlords. It seems that Vlad did drink the blood of some victims, but he wasn't a fully fledged vampire. The Romanian government objects to this parallel between Hollywood's Dracula and Prince Vlad. They see their boy as a 15th century freedom fighter, a sort of Romanian Che Guevara. And they've produced a feature film to polish up the socialist image of the real Dracula. But far from being some dark satanic power, there are those who say that old Vlad maybe even saved European Christianity from the Turkish Muslim invasion. But he was awful rough on the Turks. Ruthless and cruel in battle, Vlad cut off the ears and the noses of the Turkish infidels, and a few other things too. And when the emperor tried to reason, Vlad sent back the emperor's messengers with their turbans nailed to their heads. As for the invading Turkish army, well, Vlad tried his favourite trick and left them hanging around on their own spears. A rival prince finally lopped off Vlad's head, so the original Dracula was laid to rest peacefully, to become a party hero. He was not a vampire, not that we know of. So there you have it, Dracula or Vlad the Impaler. Neither one of them the sort of friendly characters that you'd want to take away to the country for a quiet weekend. But I think on balance, on blood count, that I'd probably opt for Dracula, because after all, he was, or is, just a fictional character. He's not real, is he?
Hello, I'm Tara Brown. Thanks for watching. To keep up with the latest from 60 Minutes Australia, make sure you subscribe to our channel. You can also download the 9Now app for full episodes and other exclusive 60 Minutes content.